Plynlimon, king and caretaker, looked out over his domain. It was time for change. He called his 3 daughters to him, Severn, and Rheidol. "My girls," he said, "you are no longer children, but young women, and it is time for you to take your place in the world. Tomorrow, I give you from sunrise until sunset, and all the land that you cover in that time tomorrow will be yours forevermore, to be queen of, to rule over. But you must have your feet in salt water by the time the sun sets, or you will be queen of nothing." The girls turned to one another, their eyes bright, already starting to plot and plan what they would do the next day. Severn, the eldest, she went to bed early that night, and she rose early, while the stars were still in the sky. And she sat and waited, looking towards the east, waiting for the sunrise. And as the sun crested the horizon, she was up and off like a hare, running in a long, easy lope she hoped she could carry on all day. The sea was to her back to the west, but her plan was to take a long loop, a great arc to cover as much land as possible before finally reaching the sea at sunset. Was next. And she went to bed at her usual time. She rose at her usual time, with a smile on her face when she remembered what the day would bring. If the land that she travelled that day was going to be the land that she would rule after evermore, she wanted it to be all of her favourite places. And so she set off south, and she went through all of her favourite meadows full of flowers and all of the secret valleys that she loved. Rheidol was the youngest, and she had big plans like her sister Severn. She was going to go to bed early and rise early and cover more land than both of her sisters, but although she went to bed early, she didn't sleep. She tossed and turned, plotting and planning, her mind so busy that when at last she sank into a true sleep, Severn was already rising. Rheidol slept. Rheidol slept as rose and left. Rheidol slept until the sun was right overhead, shining full on her face, and only then did she wake up to see that half of the day was gone. All of her plans were in tatters. She leapt to her feet and ran, skipping from boulder to boulder, clambering down the rocks, jumping like a goat, making her way directly straight towards the sea. Plynlimon watched as his 3 daughters made their different, separate ways to the sea. He watched as the sun began to sink in the sky, and Severn and they came close on their journeys, held hands for the last part. He watched as Rheidol, running as fast as she could, at last reached the shore, and all 3 of his daughters raced across the shore, splashing into salt water just as the sun melted into the horizon. Plynlimon stretched, and he settled into the form of a mountain. And his 3 daughters he turned to rivers, tracing the steps that they had taken that day. And so they remain, Plynlimon standing tall and proud, nurturing and nourishing his 3 daughters, queens and caretakers in their own right, ruling and serving the land that they travel over. And as they run from Plynlimon to the sea, they take life with them. They feed and water the land, refresh and renew. And as they travel, they bring joy and wonder, gossip and news. Each one of them has her own separate song, and each is a river full of story.